Christian McCaffrey was sick this week. That made him exit practice about 10 minutes in on Thursday, so he was a limited participant then, was back to being a full participant on Friday. And then today, Saturday, it is just a walkthrough day for the 49ers. They don't have practice, but they added him to the injury report with a back issue. However, Christian is expected to be good to go for the 49ers game against the Titans tomorrow. Before people overreact too much, I wanted to be live first. I think I was live first. So hopefully this helps settle you down. I know some people are in the fantasy football playoffs right now. Others are just in the business of caring about the 49ers. Others probably just want to see NFL history. Christian McCaffrey can become the first player in NFL history to go 1,000 twice. Well, you could exhale a sigh of relief. He is on that injury report, but he is expected to play tomorrow. Before things get as out of control as they did back in week 1, when the 49ers added Christian McCaffrey to the injury report with the calf issue, then everybody thought that his season was over. Everybody, probably except for this channel and a couple other people. At the time, we said, calm down, some gamesmanship from the 49ers. I don't even think this is gamesmanship. I think this is just the 49ers being honest on the injury report, because you have to in this day and age. It's very, very important. Christian McCaffrey sick this week. Who knows? Maybe his back hurt a little bit in connection to that illness, but he's expected to be good to go tomorrow. They diligently report the injury. McCaffrey's going to be in that lineup against the Tennessee Titans. Kyle Shanahan was speaking on his weekly interview with NBC Sports Bay Area about the bye week, and he talked a little bit about Christian McCaffrey, and he talked a little bit about rest on the 49ers' bodies. Unfortunately, Christian did get sick this week, and often when you do run into an illness, it is hard to get that full recuperation. But one general theme of this 49ers season has been this bye week is super, super late. It was week 14 for San Francisco. So they were running out of gas physically heading into the final game before the break against the Browns. Now they have a little bit of extra rest. Unfortunately, Christian didn't get the full benefit of that rest, but Kyle Shanahan did talk about what he wants to see from the team energy-wise as a whole coming out of this bye week.
Wear and tear, to be able to take a week off is huge for any player, but especially a running back. But I'll go to all of our positions. The running backs usually are the most, just because of what they go through on a play. But I mean, the second, I would think of our D-line. Just these last 3 weeks, you go back to Arizona, they had 80 plays in that Arizona game. We lost a D lineman early in it, so almost all of our guys were over 50 plays, and that makes them not recover for the next game versus Carolina, and they're hurting versus Carolina. And then that's a Monday night game. You got a short week with Thanksgiving. You got to fly to Cleveland. That's why I was really proud of our guys versus Cleveland. I really thought that was what people would label a trap game in terms of coming off a Monday night win, guys being really tired, their legs starting to die out, having to go up there, playing that weather. Knowing your bye week was exactly the next day. But guys had to really gut that out. And if you go back and watch that film, you could see Christian, but you could see our D-line, you could see our whole team. We were in need of a break to get our legs back, and I feel like we did, and that should give us a boost, but now it's about how you execute and how you make plays.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey's back may hurt because he's been carrying the 49ers team this year. It's the volume of his usage this season, and the 49ers have needed every single carry and every single catch. It's really been fascinating to see, because they haven't gotten what they need to from the wide receiver position, because the defense hasn't been as good as some of the previous good years. I know it's been better than 2024, but it hasn't been better than 2022, 2023, some of the peak years for the 49ers when they've been a winning team. Because of all of that, and the Brock Purdy injury situation has forced them to go to Mac Jones, who doesn't push the ball as far downfield. Christian McCaffrey's usage has been off the charts. I mean, we're talking leader in receptions amongst all NFL players and leader in rushing attempts amongst all players for the vast majority of this season. It wasn't until a couple weeks ago that Christian McCaffrey fell out of the top spot in the rushing attempts category. So his volume is as high as ever. He's handled it extremely well. He's over 800 yards rushing. He's over 800 yards receiving. It's been a special contribution for the 49ers at a time when they really, really have needed that. The goal for the stretch run of this season would be that they don't need quite as much of it because they hope that Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle can pick up some of the receiving slack that the 49ers have had. They don't have as many explosive plays as they would want because they are running the offense a little too heavily through a running back and through a tight end. And as good as Christian is, his home is primarily going to be the backfield, so he's not going to be running as many field stretching routes as an X wideout would, and that's why the 49ers want Pearsall and would love for Brandon Aiyuk to come back, but that almost certainly is not going to happen. But the truth is that they've gotten to this point because of high volume for Christian McCaffrey. He stayed healthy so far, and anytime that he's added to the injury report, people are going to get very, very nervous because he is such an important part, not just of the 49ers, but probably of other people's fantasy teams. But I can tell you, and I can assure you right now, that this is like the week one situation. This is more of a scare to outsiders than an actual scare to the 49ers and to Christian McCaffrey within the building. He's expected to be good to go tomorrow. Adam Schefter confirmed that on ESPN. McCaffrey, though, added to the injury report with the back issue today. It's really been remarkable when you look at how many injury problems the 49ers have had. And you go back to the drama right before the start of this journey, right before the start of week one, where everybody was freaking out about Christian as San Francisco headed up to Seattle. He's been the one guy who, it seems, has not been afflicted by anything up until this illness and obviously the back issue, which might be connected. We're not sure, but hadn't been afflicted by anything until now. But Christian, very, very important. Speaking of the bye week, Kyle Shanahan, on his message to the team leaving this bye week.
I just think, put it in perspective how cool it is that when you go back to whether you're a coach or a player, let's say you go into February, we went into January last year. We didn't make the playoffs. And I started really getting back to work at the end of January. Players come in and they start, getting their really lifting on their own. They come to us in April, but they usually start at the end of February, beginning of March. And my biggest point is, like, guys, when you start working out in February, when you start working out in March, everything you do is so you can hopefully get to December and be playing meaningful football, trying to get into that tournament. And that's what we've earned. And that's what's fun about this moment right now. But I also say, when you start out a year, you're trying to get into the playoffs, and you can get in, 7 teams get in there. And so you have the option to be one of those 7 teams or not get in it at all. And we're sitting here at 9-4, everything that we've worked for, and we're excited about it. But we're still in a situation where we can be one of those 7 teams or not get in the playoffs. So there's zero difference right now than there was in week 1. However, it's over a 4-game season. Do we have to win 2 of those to get in the playoffs? Do we have to win 3 of those to get in the playoffs? Can you win 4 of them to be the 1 seed? If you only win 1 of them, are you the 8 seed, which isn't a seed, you're not even in? That's my point, that there's no difference right now than it is in week 1. However, there's 4 games to do it, and that's more inspiring. That's not as daunting. You can look at it that way, but that's why it comes to this week. I look at all 4 of these as playoff games. No, you're not eliminated, but they mean that much in all of these avenues, and it could be any of those. And that's why we're excited to do it, because we know we have a chance to do it, and we can see it, but there's still a ton of work to get done.
So before people say, oh, they're just going to rest Christian McCaffrey because there might be a tweak to his back, he's not quite 100%, it's the Tennessee Titans. You can tell that's not how Kyle Shanahan is thinking, and I'm glad that Kyle Shanahan is not thinking that way, because that is casual fantasy football mentality. You got to take every single opponent seriously. The Tennessee Titans may only have 2 wins, but it's still an NFL team. Every single player on the Titans was still one of the best 2 or 3 players on their college team, just to give you perspective. There are no gimmies in this league. You don't just walk into another team's stadium like an Alabama might walk into Mercer or, some college that obviously isn't in the SEC, isn't playing at that high of a level. That's obviously going to be a 50-plus point win for a college football powerhouse. In the NFL, that doesn't exist. The Titans still have Jeffrey Simmons, who's probably going to be the best defensive lineman on the field tomorrow. The Titans still have Tony Pollard, who's a really good running back. The Titans can still generate a couple takeaways, and maybe they don't even generate them. Maybe the 49ers give them the football by virtue of a giveaway, and that could tilt the game in Tennessee's favor. Is it likely to happen? No, because the 49ers do have a market advantage on paper, and I do really think that the 49ers will win this game. I think they're going to win it by multiple possessions. But the margin in the NFL is never thick. It is always something that can flip with just a couple of plays. And that's why you don't chance anything. If Christian McCaffrey is healthy enough to play, Christian McCaffrey plays. And Christian McCaffrey is very likely going to be good to go for the 49ers against Tennessee. You treat this like a playoff game. It's home stretch season now. It's the Tennessee Titans. It is the following week for the 49ers against the Indianapolis Colts, who, by the way, will be starting Phillip Rivers against the Seattle Seahawks tomorrow. One of the many intriguing games around the entire NFL that might impact how the 49ers end up this 2025 regular season as far as the standings go. Then it's a December 28th game against the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, Sunday Night Football. That's going to be awesome. And then it's the Seahawks on January 4th, followed by the actual playoffs. The 49ers are very likely to make the actual playoffs, but they haven't fully sealed it yet. The only way that you divert from the strategy that Kyle Shanahan was talking about, treating every single one of these last 4 regular season games as a playoff game, the only way that happens is if somehow mathematically you reach week 18 against Seattle and your seeding cannot change. If you can't win the division, you can't get the 1 seed because that's already been locked up by other teams, and you're basically slotted for the 5 or the 6 or wherever you're going to be. If that can't move, it's not likely, but there is a possibility where the 49ers could be pigeonholed into such a position come January 4th. Then you could have the discussion of potentially resting players. You don't rest anyone, including Christian McCaffrey, just because you're playing the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. You know, this was a little bit of a wrench, this piece of news, but I have to report on it because I know that people are a little bit worried about it because it is Christian McCaffrey and it is the 49ers heading into the December stretch run, the linchpin of this football team. But I had recorded a nice little intro that I was going to splice into my Saturday video. You know, I always take you to a cool spot of San Francisco. Yesterday, we rode the ferry over to Sausalito for dinner. I'm just going to play the intro, and then I was going to talk about the last 4 games of this season. It was going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to go straight to that right now, and then we could talk more about Christian and answer some of your questions. These ferries pick up speed fast. Golden hour. Look at the Transamerica Pyramid with the sunshine. Oh my God, I didn't even try for that solar flare. Awesome. We talk about these ferries picking up speed. 49ers season about to pick up serious speed. This is going to be the most compelling regular season stretch of the Kyle Shanahan era. I know they're going to beat the Titans. The predictions here, 31-13, 49ers over the Titans. But then it's about the final 3 games of this regular season. And those final 3 games, the Colts, 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, then the Chicago Bears, 44-year-old grandpa Phillip Rivers, then the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams, then the Seattle Seahawks coming to Levi Stadium, maybe for the number 1 seed. Wouldn't that be something? So buckle your seatbelts, don't fly off the ferry. Look, this thing is moving at the speed that the 49ers season is going to move at to close this season. We're headed to Sausalito, by the way. I've got to be careful not to drop the phone or drop myself into the bay. I just swam in this water. We can talk about Fred Warner's rehab in cold water at Lake Tahoe, or we could talk about my swim out to Alcatraz. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge that way as we're zooming across the bay. But cold water has healing properties. And I don't think the 49ers are going to get Fred Warner back quite for this regular season stretch, but if they could play this correctly, they could get Fred Warner back for the back half of the postseason. And if you play this regular season stretch correctly, the chances of there being a back half of the postseason are that much higher. This is what it's all about for the 49ers. It's about November, December, January, and then February football, true December football is about to start. So 31-13 is the prediction over the Titans. Fred Warner returning. I don't know if I can predict that just yet, but cold water is going to help him. He was in Tahoe. Swimming is going to help him get that ankle flexibility back, hopefully back for the 49ers to make this truly, truly compelling. Promised we'd get Alcatraz in there. There you go. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. I got more really good shots beyond that. I'm going to play some of them. I could show some of them. That was a lot of fun. That was supposed to be the intro of the Saturday video. It was supposed to be something that led into our discussion of the back half of this season. Instead, we play it right now, and we could even open up what's happening around the rest of the NFL tomorrow, because last week it was cool because the 49ers were on their bye and there was some scoreboard watching that the 49ers could do. It's almost too bad, though, that this week's schedule wasn't last week, so the 49ers could watch, I think, at extremely more compelling set of games as far as how they might affect the 49ers moving forward. Case in point, let's get this up here. I have it right there. Just starting with something like the Packers and the Broncos. The 49ers need Green Bay to lose at least once more if they're going to control their destiny for the NFC's number 1 seed. They also need the Rams to lose at least once more. And look who the Rams are playing. The Lions. Those are both losable games for the Packers and the Rams, respectively. The Packers are 2-point favorites on the road in Denver. It's one of the best defenses in football. Probably the biggest chance for the Packers to lose one more game over the rest of this season. So we will see if Denver can get the job done as a 2-point home underdog to Green Bay. We know that Bo Nix has been a limited quarterback this year. We know that Denver offense has not been great, but we also know that defense could potentially give Jordan Love and company a whole heck of a lot of trouble. And then the Lions have had more rest than the Rams. I think that's really, really important to underscore right now. The Lions were last seen beating the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. They are now ready to take on the Rams with those extra 3 days or so of rest. And we know that the Rams did not look good a couple weeks ago against the Carolina Panthers, looked much better against Arizona. But I think that this Detroit Lions team, it's a desperate Detroit Lions team trying to scratch and claw its way into that final NFC playoff spot. This is going to be a much, much bigger challenge than the Cardinals were last week. And we got Brandon Aiyuk news. The 49ers have placed Brandon Aiyuk on the reserve left squad list, making him ineligible to return this season and raising questions about where he'll be next year. We knew that the 49ers were going to force an issue at some point, and this is it. They're not counting on Brandon Aiyuk to come back. They have now ruled Brandon Aiyuk out for the rest of the season because he has abandoned the football team. It's literally the reserve left squad list. It means that Aiyuk can no longer come back this year. It also means that the 49ers will be able to recoup salary this year. If you leave the team, you don't get paid. This is hardball that I don't think that the 49ers wanted to play, but it is hardball that the 49ers are indeed playing. We're going to get the title on this video changed. I'm going to ask Mike to do it right now so we can react to this news as it comes up. We got to get this up here, Mike. Let's get it here. I'll send you the title. Brandon Aiyuk. I'm sending you the title right now. Boom. And I have to make a new little text title here for us because this is the bigger news of the moment. So, we've been waiting for the 49ers to bring this matter to full resolution. And the shoe was going to drop. The other shoe was going to drop at any moment, and it finally has. I think what the 49ers wanted to do was see if Brandon Aiyuk would come back and work for them and honor his contract, and they wanted to give him one last chance. We heard several of the players talking about how sad they were about the situation, Brock Purdy and George Kittle included. And unfortunately, Brandon Aiyuk did not respond to any of those pleas. The 49ers can't have this hanging over their head as a distraction. And at some point, they need to take a further step of protecting their business. And this is that next step. When you're trying to protect the business, you don't want to pay people who aren't showing up to work. And Brandon Aiyuk not showing up to work, the 49ers initially, because of problems that they had with Brandon Aiyuk over the course of the offseason leading into the start of 2025, voided the 2026 guarantees. Now the 49ers are in position to recoup some of the money in 2025 itself. If we look at Brandon Ayuk's contract, I'll get this open on the screen. We can start to calculate how much money the 49ers might be able to get back this year. It was up to about $85 million over the next 3 seasons, 2026, 2027, 2028. By voiding the 2026 guarantees that already happened several months ago, the 49ers cleared the way to open up about $85 million because nothing else beyond 2026 was guaranteed. And yes, that can be earmarked to other signings. Now you can get back even more money. And yes, also against the salary cap, because Brandon Aiyuk has not fulfilled his contractual duties for the football team. The football team has run out of patience waiting for him to potentially fulfill those contractual duties this year. They have put him on the left team list or left squad list. That's one of the reserve lists. He doesn't count against the 90 or the 70-man roster, whatever you want to count it during the season. He was already on PUP before. That was physically unable to perform. But now it moves off of physically unable to perform to a list where Brandon Aiyuk is not going to be paid by the football team. He's not, I mean, even if money is guaranteed, it's not guaranteed if you leave the team. And that is exactly what this placement on the list is going to allow the 49ers to do. They are protecting the business in this case. It is a sad, sad story. I think everybody has agreed on that. We heard George Kittle talking about it. We've heard Brock Purdy talking about it. We've heard John Lynch. We've heard Kyle Shanahan. Everyone talking about this, but you know, the designation of left squad, like literally abandoned team, left the team, probably means that the 49ers cannot even clear Brandon Aiyuk right now through physical rehab. Like doctors probably aren't even able to clear him so that they can open his practice window, right? One thing that we talked about the 49ers potentially forcing the issue because they were incentivized to force the issue to protect their own money, to protect their own standards, to set a certain level of decorum and make sure that the message is clear that if you don't follow the wording of your contract, and Brandon Aiyuk signed a contract worth up to $120 million last year, which he obviously isn't following, but you have to set a standard that's unacceptable. But we had said if the 49ers were going to force this issue, they could theoretically clear Brandon Aiyuk if the doctors said that he was healthy enough to go, open up his practice window, and then if he didn't show up to practice, then they could suspend him or put him on one of these reserve lists. The fact that not even the practice window never even opened here, and they just put him right on the left squad list, and there's no official word of his clearance, makes me think, and this is just me speculating right now, but it makes me think that there was not even an opportunity to clear Brandon Aiyuk medically. Now, we're going to get the full story or a fuller story as this develops, but what I put up on the screen right now underneath me is the main gist of this. Brandon Aiyuk is officially done for the season. Those of you tuning in for the Christian McCaffrey news, he has been added to the injury report with a back issue, but he is likely to be good to go on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. Brandon Aiyuk is done for the season. We are putting him on a new injury or a new list. It's not an injury list. He was on an injury list. He might still technically be injured because we haven't gotten full word or official word of his clearance, but we do know that the 49ers have placed Brandon Aiyuk on the reserve/left squad list. And we can make the necessary adjustments on our 49ers full 2025 depth chart. So as you can see here, we have PUP and NFI. We have a suspended list. Nobody's on that. Demarcus Robinson and Isaac Alarcon were on the suspended list earlier. So we're going to change that to the reserve left squad list. Boom. And now we are going to add Brandon Aiyuk's name to it. And we can go ahead and take him off of the PUP list. The 49ers no longer have a single player on PUP. They only have Curtis Rourke on NFI. His practice window, though, is open. He'll likely stay on NFI. I doubt that they'll activate Curtis Rourke. It's going to be more of a redshirt year for him. So this is what it now looks like for the 49ers. They very clearly could have used Brandon Aiyuk this season. He decided that he wasn't going to help his teammates, and this is where we're at right now. And I mean, it's a sad situation all around. It's a situation where it doesn't appear that we have all the answers right now. It from the outside, it does not seem that Brandon Aiyuk is acting rationally. I said that I was going to put up the contract, and I will right now. We're going to go to over the cap so we can see exactly how much money the 49ers might be able to recoup in this situation. Here it is. Get this up on the screen. All right, so this is Brandon Aiyuk's contract. In 2026, there is going to be a $24.9 million or $25 million option bonus that is due by September 1st. That was guaranteed, but the 49ers back in July were able to void those guarantees. So Aiyuk is no longer owed that money in 2026. However, he was paid out a fairly big option bonus already this season. In 2025, you can see by the proration, we can calculate how big it was. $4.57 million hit on the salary cap for that option bonus this season, but it was much bigger than that because you multiply $4.57 million by 5. Brandon Aiyuk was paid out a $22.85 million option bonus here for 2026. Now, exactly how much of that the 49ers will be able to recoup, that's a question for lawyers. That's a question for agents. That probably is going to go into some sort of legal system. I don't know if it's going to go to the NFL's legal system or be escalated all the way up into court. I don't know where the two sides stand there. But Aiyuk obviously is not fulfilling his contractual obligation, even though he was paid that money. And the 49ers are very obviously protecting themselves in this instance. So we will the exact math will be adjudicated on spots outside of this YouTube channel and outside of social media. I think there are a lot of complicating factors, including the fact that Brandon Aiyuk has not officially been cleared yet to return from the knee injury, but there are contractual obligations that go beyond just sitting on the bench and rehabbing while you're injured. Like even if you're hurt, you still have to attend meetings. You still have to fulfill a lot of the finer print in the contract. And that very apparently is something that Brandon Aiyuk had not been doing. And this stretches back months, which is why the 2026 guarantees were voided. And now that the 49ers literally placed him on a left squad list, there's even more indication that Brandon Aiyuk was not living up to the very, very basic terms of his contract. And therefore, some of the money that we look at moving forward in 2026 should open up even further for the 49ers in their salary cap situation moving ahead. A tough situation because the reason they committed to pay him up to $120 million last year was because he's so important. He was so important to this football team and to this offense. I wrote about this on the San Francisco Standard. Here's the big article when we were looking at the 49ers and offensive efficiency. They've got two great quarterbacks. There they are, Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. They have amazing performance from Purdy, especially in terms of pressure to sack ratio. The escapability that the QB is giving them has raised the ceiling of this offense, but they're struggling to deliver at the wide receiver position. This is yards per route run on the right, and blue is better, red is bad, and anybody above the league median is shaded in blue in yards per route run. Anybody below it is shaded in red. They don't have a single receiver above the league median. It's only Christian McCaffrey, who's a running back, and George Kittle, who's a tight end. Back in 2023, the 49ers had two wideouts above the league median, 2 over 2 yards per route run. It was Brandon Aiyuk and it was Deebo Samuel. And because of that, this offense was so much more explosive in 2023. Even in 2024, it was more explosive because they were getting more out of that wide receiver position. So Brandon Aiyuk was a hinge point for the 49ers when they signed him in 2024. That's why they were so adamant on getting that deal done, despite the difficulty that Aiyuk presented, because they were trying to run it back and give their best shot at a Super Bowl in 2024. And they knew that they needed that all-important space-creating wide receiver on the outside. Ultimately, the team budged enough to offer Aiyuk a contract worth up to $30 million annually with a lot of guarantees that Aiyuk sat around on for about 3 weeks. The contract that he ended up signing was one that was sitting on his desk for 3 weeks, and those 3 weeks were completely wasted. Aiyuk himself acknowledged afterward that he made it more difficult than it had to be. I mean, I've talked to several people involved with this matter, surrounding this matter, and you know, the story is the same from everyone on both sides of this. Aiyuk's side and on the 49ers side, he made this much more difficult than it had to be, and it all would have been water under the bridge. It all would have been fine had the problematic attitude and the problematic nature of the negotiation not extended beyond him signing a contract worth up to $120 million. I can speak for myself, and I think I could speak for everyone watching this right now. Most everyone. You know, maybe we have a few people worth more than $120 million watching the show, but the vast majority of us would be very, very happy, would be very honored to sign a contract that could pay us up to $120 million to do what we love, right? And we know that these NFL contract situations can get messy, feelings can get hurt, drama can percolate. We know that these can get ugly. They've gotten ugly before. But the one thing that had truly unified every single one of the 49ers negotiations, even the ones that had prolonged holdouts leading up to the Brandon Aiyuk situation, and even after it, right? Even the Brock Purdy contract negotiation, which obviously didn't feature a holdout, but they signed George Kittle, they signed Fred Warner this past offseason. All of these deals have been marked by a return to normalcy after the negotiation has concluded and after the ink has dried. So whether it be Trent Williams away from the facility, Nick Bosa away from the facility holding out, Deebo Samuel in 2022, creating some drama on social media, wasn't nearly what Brandon Aiyuk created, but any of those guys, Fred Warner, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, I mean, the 49ers have done so many of these negotiations, right? They have the most highly paid players of any team in NFL. All of those situations, the player and the team returned to normal relations after the contract was signed. Holdout was done. Everybody moved forward. Player delivered on the football field. And the contract, in essentially all the cases that I just listed, was very worth it. Where this Aiyuk situation has diverged from the norm is that the crazy drama, the, just wild, unpredictable nature of the player has persisted even past the contract being signed. And that's why I say that, most of us, like, if we sign something for up to $120 million, I would venture to say, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here, I would venture to say that we would be happy to honor the terms of the contract if we were going to be paid that much money. But there was the weird shorts incident with Brandon Aiyuk where he wore red shorts to practice, even though everybody else had black shorts on, and Kyle Shanahan chewed him out on the practice field. Then obviously there was the injury, and that's probably outside of Brandon Ayuk's control. But you go back to the fact that he probably wasn't as prepared as he should have been for that 2024 season, because he sat on the contract that he ended up signing for 3 weeks. So, I mean, all of this stuff, like it was just a torrent of negativity that persisted even after he signed. And now, everybody thought that, and it looked too, it looked over the course of the summer training camp, early camp, heading into the preseason when he was running routes on that field during the pregame against the Raiders. It looked like Brandon Aiyuk was working diligently to get back with the 49ers. But something has happened, and we obviously don't have the full picture and the full story, but something has happened to where the negative side of this, the ugly side of this has reared its head again. And Aiyuk, for whatever reason, has never fully gotten over the animosity that other players were able to get over as part of their contract negotiations and as part of actually signing a deal with the 49ers. So, it's tough because how is another team ever going to trust Brandon Aiyuk? It's hard for me to see him signing anything more than a 1-year prove-it deal with another team. And he had, just the voiding of guarantees that happened a few weeks ago. Brandon Aiyuk had $28 million that were going to come to him no matter what in 2026, as long as he honored the very simple terms of his contract. But he wasn't willing to do that. He wasn't willing to even do what was necessary to hold on to the money this year. I think that the 49ers, they're clearly in business preservation mode right now, as they should be, as is their right. So, it just doesn't seem rational to me from the outside. Maybe we'll find more information that will help explain Brandon Aiyuk's side of this, but his 49ers teammates don't seem to get it. Kyle Shanahan doesn't really seem to get it. John Lynch doesn't seem to get it from the outside. It's a sad situation. It's an irrational situation, at least based on the information that we know on the outside. And it's one that I don't think benefits either party. In the big picture, they agreed to a deal worth up to $120 million last year because they thought that it'd be mutually beneficial for Aiyuk to bring his talents and continue bringing his talents to what the 49ers offense was trying to do, because he's such a ferocious blocker on top of the awesome receiving ability, insane catch radius, awesome vertical leap, great ball skills. You packaged all of that into one player, and it was a dream for the 49ers offense. We shouldn't undersell how good Brandon Aiyuk was in 2023. So he signed that deal for the 49ers because it was beneficial to him. He obviously needed the money. The 49ers signed the deal because having Aiyuk on this team under contract was beneficial to them. But Aiyuk, for whatever reason, was unable to live up to an agreement that was a win, very clearly a win for both sides. And because of that, it's turned into a loss for both sides. The 49ers don't get that ex-receiver presence that I think they could really use as a football team this year and moving into the future. And it puts a lot more pressure on somebody like Ricky Pearsall. And you can't convince me that Brandon Aiyuk has won in this situation, because he's left millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars on the table, and has seen his reputation dissolve across the entire NFL. Like, if you are an NFL team executive, trust has to be part of any agreement that you strike, especially for a lot of money with any player. So even if the 49ers cut ties here with Brandon Aiyuk, and I'm guessing they're going to cut him, or if they could somehow trade him, we'll see if I could talk about that in a little bit. But whatever maneuver they make is going to have a post June 1st tag on it. It's not going to have the salary cap damage accelerate to hit the 49ers in 2025. It's going to be delayed until 2026. But regardless of however this is executed by the 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk's next team, if there is a next team, is almost certainly not going to be willing to commit anything guaranteed to him. Like, I don't see how they can. It would not be wise business practice for an NFL team to do that. So on one side, you had tens and tens of millions of guarantees from the 49ers that he walked away from. And on the other side, you're going to have prove-it contracts. So there are a couple options for the 49ers here. You have here's the contract. Let's get it back up on the screen. And you can see this run through 2028. The 49ers have void years built into this contract all the way through 2030. That means that they've spread the salary cap damage out until 2030, because anytime you pay a player a signing bonus or an option bonus, it can prorate for up to 5 years against the salary cap on the contract. So when they gave Aiyuk a $22.85 million option bonus in the start of the 2025 season, you can see that it prorates at $4.57 million per year. So 4.57 million times 5 equals 22.85 million. Another option bonus of about 25 million was going to hit on September 1st of 2026. That proration is included in this column, and this column filled with these option bonuses that stagger the cap hits for Brandon Aiyuk has money that stretches out all the way until 2030. If Brandon Aiyuk is cut or if he's traded, all of the money that is stiff-armed into the future on the salary cap, so the $4.987 million here, the $9.558 million here, $9.558 million here, you add all this money and it has to accelerate and hit the salary cap whenever he's cut. That's why the 49ers cannot cut him right now, because there would be a tremendous cost in doing so. It would be probably $30 to $40 million worth of dead money hitting the books right now. And the 2025 books simply would not be able to handle it all at once. But if you don't cut him until post-June 1st, and you could put a post-June 1st designation on him as soon as the beginning of the 2026 new league year, then you're in a situation where you're spacing that dead money out between 2025, and you're only shouldering a very small portion of it in 2025 relatively, versus what hits in 2026 and beyond. So you're stiff-arming the money into the future. That's how the 49ers are going to have to treat this. Same deal. If you trade him, then the money that you've already paid him through the signing and option bonuses, and they're going to recoup, obviously, some of that option bonus. I just don't know how much of it, but they've set the table to do that with this latest move. But they can actually financially, from a salary cap standpoint, handle a maneuver that's not until after June 1st, at least according to the fiscal markings on the transaction. So they've got to carry Brandon Aiyuk on the roster for the time being, but they can put him on a suspended list, which they've done now, to allow that to happen over the course of the next few months. Mike says that Aiyuk is the second player to quit on the 49ers in a 1 year span. Yeah, I mean, Devondre Campbell, what date was that? 49ers Rams 2024? Wasn't that December 12th? This is almost a year to the date. Yeah, it was December 12th, 2024 when Devondre Campbell walked off the football field against the Rams. That's crazy. So a year ago at this time, this was the day after that Rams game, we were talking about Campbell quitting on San Francisco. Now, 366 days later, we were talking about Brandon Aiyuk being added to the left squad list. That is absurd to me to think. And, obviously two different players, two very different situations. Devondre Campbell wasn't leaving all that much money on the table. 49ers got an adjustment, I'm sure, there of maybe $1 million or so, because he did get paid for how much he did play that season, and he didn't finish out the last, 3 games or so. Brandon Aiyuk, though, this is much more that he's leaving on the table, because this contract was still going to run another 3 seasons beyond this one. absolute insanity. But this is where the 49ers currently are with Brandon Aiyuk. We've covered all the financial ramifications of this already. We've said that movement is probably coming on this Brandon Aiyuk front, and this is the movement. The 49ers incentivized to force the issue. They have forced the issue, and Aiyuk no longer can play for the 49ers in 2026 or 2025, almost certainly going to be off the team in 2026. Can I answer some of your questions? This will likely move into the hands of lawyers. You know, everybody asking me about pay for the rest of this season. Well, he's not honoring his contract, so the 49ers obviously aren't going to want to pay him. But technically, they have paid him an option bonus already that handled most of the money here in 2025. Like $22.85 million of Brandon Aiyuk's salary this year came via option bonus. So that's why this turns into a potentially big legal thing. It's, well, how much does Brandon Aiyuk have to pay back? How do the 49ers get some of that money back? How much of it are they going to want back? How does the injury factor in, since he has been on the physically unable to perform list? I mean, these are all impossible questions to answer as we sit here in front of my nice little YouTube studio background. These are all questions that I could bring up, but we're going to see how they're answered over the course, probably over the next several months. The 49ers have made a couple roster moves for tomorrow's game. Jalen Graham and Sebastian Valdez have been elevated from the practice squad for Sunday's game. So Graham, the linebacker, because the 49ers will not have Tatum Bethune, and the Hulk, Sebastian Valdez, his second elevation. However, he did not play the first time that he was elevated. That, I believe, was the Rams game. Yeah, that was the Rams game at the beginning of November. Valdez was one of the inactives the next day. So maybe the Hulk, Sebastian Valdez, will make his NFL debut tomorrow. This show is brought to you by Hollow Socks. They sent me a pair of those socks, and they're actually really warm. You know, this is the coldest winter, and it's not even winter yet, in 103 years in the Bay Area. My feet always get cold. They've been cold a lot. But the Hollow Socks have been a very, very nice, needed addition. They're alpaca socks built for the field. These are high-performance socks made from ultra-soft baby alpaca fibers, engineered for rugged conditions and designed to keep your feet dry, warm, and comfortable no matter where the day takes you. They're the only socks that will keep your feet warm below freezing and then cooled off when it hits 80 degrees. They feel amazing. There's a reinforced structure of the heel and the toe. It's actually perfect for hunt boots. 3 times warmer than wool and still lightweight. Hollow doesn't just make socks for the outdoors. They've engineered them for every activity. They are everyday socks, soft, breathable comfort for daily wear, travel, or downtime. So for a limited time, Hollow Socks is having a buy 2, get 2 free sale. Head to hollowsocks.com today to check it out. That's hollowsocks.com for up to 50% off your order. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. You can support our show by telling them that we sent you. There are about 22% of the season is left, 4 out of 18 weeks. Mike is saying, well, 49ers might go after 22% of the Brandon Aiyuk option bonus. I think it's probably going to be more complicated than that because, again, he's technically on PUP and he technically hasn't been cleared yet. And it's not as simple as somebody like Devondre Campbell just walking off the field in early December last year. Well, you just don't pay him for the last few games. When somebody is hurt, then you have to go into all the contract stipulations about their duties, even when they are hurt. 49ers obviously found a violation there from Brandon Aiyuk back in July, which is why they voided the 2026 guarantees. But now this is about 2025 money. And this is also about recouping money that's already been paid out to a player. So I think that things are going to be much, much more complex this time around. Yes, the hollow socks do work well with my Tacovas. That's actually a really good question. With my cowboy boots, the Tacovas, we've had a commercial from them before. Hollow socks, Tacovas. I wore the hollow socks with my Tacovas last night during the Sausalito video as we were crossing the bay right in front of Alcatraz. This allows the 49ers to just turn their attention fully toward the rest of the season. I don't think they wanted Brandon Aiyuk to become a distraction heading into late December, into January. Either he's in or he's out. You can't just sit around and wait forever. They gave him every opportunity to report to the football team, and he did not take it. He clearly doesn't want to be there. So the 49ers place him on that left squad list, and Brandon Aiyuk is done for the season. Likely done for his 49ers career. Who knows? He might be done for his NFL career. This is not going to be easy to come back from if you're Brandon Aiyuk. It isn't quite as bad as Devontae Campbell walking off the field in the middle of the game, and there's probably other extenuating circumstances here that we don't yet know. But at the end of the day, Aiyuk did sign a contract worth up to $120 million, and he so badly failed at living up to the terms of that deal that not only have future guarantees been voided, current year money is likely going to be targeted by his employer. And I don't speak on that from knowledge of what the 49ers front office wants to do. I speak on that from common sense. I said weeks ago that the 49ers are incentivized to take action on the Brandon Aiyuk front. And I think there's a reason why they probably were behind releasing the news a few weeks ago about the voiding of the 2026 guarantees, because I think they wanted to firmly put the ball in Brandon Ayuk's court so they could see if he would pass it back to them. He has not passed it back to them, and they said, fine, we can now take 2025 money as well. That's my read of the situation. It's not a good situation for Aiyuk. It isn't great for the 49ers because they were willing to pay him that money if he would have lived up to the term of their contract and helped the football team. It is officially on the NFL wire. Brandon Aiyuk placed on the reserve left squad list, and it is officially on our spreadsheet. At the start of the show, we said that Christian McCaffrey was added to the injury report with a back issue. However, nothing to worry about. Christian McCaffrey is going to be good to go in all likelihood for the 49ers and Titans game tomorrow. However, the big news of this Saturday afternoon is that the Brandon Aiyuk era is officially over in San Francisco. Don't see him coming back to the 49ers after this. They were leaving that window open here to see if Brandon Aiyuk would have a change of heart, but he does not take advantage of that open window, and now the 49ers have to move forward with Ricky Pearsall. I mean, he is the main the main hinge point for the 49ers to close this season at not just wide receiver, but for the whole offense. I will continue going back to this. San Francisco needs at least one of its wideouts to be above 2 yards per route run in the blue. That means that they have a good space-making presence on the outside, somebody who can truly open up room underneath for Christian McCaffrey, for George Kittle, for the other wide receivers. That's what's necessary in San Francisco. In 2023, they had both Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel over 2 yards per route run. Now they have nobody. Jawan Jennings is a 1.38. Ricky Pearsall over the course of the first 4 weeks was a 2.27. He's exactly where they needed him to be. And I think that Ricky Pearsall with rhythm, and he's now had a good month to reintegrate into the offense following the injury, he should start getting A, more targets, and B, converting more of his targets. I think he could be that guy for the 49ers again. With Aiyuk now officially done for the season, Ricky Pearsall has to be that guy if the 49ers want to raise the profile of this football team further to the right and further up. That's obviously defense up in the team tier chart. We're going to open up the team tier chart to really put a bow on this thing, because Aiyuk is definitely not going to help the 49ers move the way that they want to move anymore. Here, let me take a screenshot of this so we can have it across the whole screen. There you go. 49ers want to move further to the right, obviously further up. They are moving in the right direction, but if they're going to be clustered in with these teams, the Buffaloes and the Green Bays, offensively, they need more X receiver production. It's on Ricky Pearsall now to be that guy who can score efficiency-wise over 2 yards per route run. You know, there was nobody. It's funny because there was nobody as bullish as me on the value of Brandon Aiyuk leading up to the signing of the contract. Like, this was, he was arguably the best receiver in football in 2023. He was the most efficient receiver in football for sure. But what he was doing in the past game, he was at 18.1 yards per reception, which is insane. The EPA that he was adding, the expected points that he was adding with every single catch was off the charts. The way that he blocked was awesome for the 49ers. I mean, it helped string everything together. I said early in that offseason that it was probably going to take the 49ers $30 million to sign Brandon Aiyuk, just given the value that he did bring the team. I thought that he earned every cent of that deal, which makes it all the more tragic that he chose not to live up to the contract, because he put in the work. Brandon Aiyuk put in the work. He put in the numbers. He demonstrated the value to be worth that much money. There was a debate. Oh, is Aiyuk worth $30 million? Hell yes, he was. But then it was a total meltdown. And the meltdown, you can argue, you don't even have to argue, you could probably just say as a fact, began before he signed the contract. And the one mistake here that the 49ers are probably kicking themselves for is, and it's hard to do this because in every other contractual situation, even if there were some unpleasantries, they were fixed by the actual signing of the contract. But once they started to get some of the erratic behavior and some of the red flags from Brandon Aiyuk before the contract was signed, I think the 49ers now in retrospect wish they just would have traded him, because the behavior that was so problematic before the signing of the contract persisted past the signing. And that's why the 49ers so quickly regretted this, is because they said, well, okay, we're offering the deal. We're not trading you. You're finally signing it. Great. They thought that Brandon Aiyuk would behave rationally after that point, after the initial check, the initial signing bonus of over $20 million hit his checking account, but that it didn't happen. Brandon Aiyuk never became the reliable presence that he was paid to be for the 49ers. He never became that foundational pillar, that A-list pillar that he was paid to be by the 49ers. So they quickly regretted it. They've been able to get out of a lot of the damage by avoiding the guarantees. They'll be able to get out of more of the damage this year, but it's still unfortunate because they were unable to truly fill their ex-receiver needs in this season. And that's the one thing that has been holding this 49ers offense back. The explosive play rate is below average for the 49ers. They're above average in every single metric, including the run game now. Brock Purdy's been awesome. Mac Jones was awesome when he played. George Kittle is great. Christian McCaffrey, historically good. But they're missing a little juice from the wideout position. That's why I keep on showing you the advanced statistics that I'm showing you. And the way that the 49ers move further to the right here to get into that very top tier to challenge with the Super Bowl, even with Brandon Aiyuk, away from the football team officially now, the way that they do that is if they get a little bit more juice out of wide receiver. And now there is pressure squarely on the shoulders of Ricky Pearsall to be able to come through in that regard for San Francisco. Maybe a Juwan Jennings extension is coming soon. There's a lot of money for the 49ers to play with. Just keep that in mind now. $85 million already freed up, 2026 and beyond. Now even more is going to be freed up. Lawyers can decide exactly how much, but maybe we'll be looking at $90 million freed up for the 49ers. Aiyuk officially done. 49ers, well, maybe they're going to move on to signing some new players. We'll talk to you soon.